Boom. All right. We are live. Thanks, guys, for coming into another Smudstream. We do this once a week on Saturdays. We did one yesterday for the hell of it. And I luckily had my cohort UDP to do some more analysis on the joys of BioWare and their design narrative ways, which was always confusing to me and now is even more confusing. But today we're not doing a video. We're doing a special writer from Forbes. His name is Erik Kain, and he's been writing about video games and stories and movies for quite a while now. And at first, I thought he was pretty smart. He had some really good comments to make on certain movies. And then he started talking about politics and movies. And of course, the main topic is being Star Wars being a very popular movie. And as soon as you see this, you say, okay, where did he go wrong and why? And he has examples. He shows things from the movies that would bolster an argument. So you have examples. It's his interpretation of two things: the actual movie and the actual definition of Mary Sue. So what I wanted to do was get Literature Devil on board because he has lots of insight. Not I don't see eye to eye to him on everything, and that's great because that's what I need. I need transitions and comparisons between my ideas and his ideas on what a Mary Sue is. Check out his channel. He's got, I think, at least one or two videos on Mary Sue's, don't you?
Yeah, about one or two. One main one, and then I talk about Mary Sue's sprinkled between the other videos I have.
That's right. Yeah, and it's the thing is because when you're talking about a very nebulous term like Mary Sue, it's you need a lot of explanation and understanding why these things exist and what defines them. Because if you go onto YouTube and search for Mary Sue, you're going to find all kinds of people talking about it. There's I can't remember the name of the guy. I think his name is ID Labs, or and he has like an index of like seven criteria. What makes a Mary Sue? You know, everyone has their own definition. So you need to get these ideas and distill them into your own understanding of why these things exist, what they actually mean. So the next time you come across a story and you're like, wait a second, this character is acting really strange. So you have a good vocabulary, you have a good understanding of the terms. So let's look at Erik here. I'm going to read away some of his stuff and to see where he goes wrong. It's a not fairly long article. It might take us about an hour to go through. And we agree that it's pretty bad. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's he wrote a second one after the second movie, so we're going to do that hopefully next week because this is long enough, and we'll see where he goes wrong.
One thing
Okay,
about this article is that he is correct in the beginning about the where the Mary Sue came from, the Trekkie's tale. That's one part of this article is dead on.
that's true. Yes, he gets it. He gets it right. Okay, let's see where he goes wrong. Then, emerging from the sea of gripes over Star Wars, The Force Awakens is perhaps the most peculiar of them all. The film's female protagonist Rey is Mary Sue. What is Mary Sue? Is a female fan fiction character that is cloyingly perfect in every way. So this definition, maybe at the time the Trekkie's Tale was written, that was the point.
Yeah, because the Trekkie's tale was basically it's a very short story that he mentions here, but it was basically Paula Smith just poking fun at all the other fan fiction writers because Star Trek at that time was one of the most popular things to write fan fiction about, and the Mary Sue ish character was something that was pretty common that you'd find in the fanzines that they used to have back then, and the whole you know the whole Mary Sue character was just a parody of a Mary of what we would call a Mary Sue character. So that's why it's so short. Just highlights the things she always saw and how ridiculous the character is.
And then we look at the patterns of storytelling over the years, and we see all these permutations and instances of what a Mary Sue is, and it's obviously grown to incorporate a much bigger criteria. So when he says a Mary Sue is a female fanfiction character that is cloyingly perfect in every way, that's not accurate. It's
No.
maybe based on the Trekkie's Tale, which is just a farce,
Hmm.
maybe, but you can't use that definition properly. And we'll go through it and see why he's wrong.
And it's because the Mary Sue archetype has kind of evolved because writers have learned not to make something a character perfect. They kind of still want to make the Mary Sue, but kind of hide it by giving her nonsense flaws. Like you see, what was it? Not 50 Shades of Grey, but the other one, Twilight. Twilight.
Right.
The main character had flaws, but they weren't real flaws that made her pay for things. It was more like her imperfection is that she's clumsy, and that doesn't really come into play. It's just that, all right, well, hey, look, she has a flaw, therefore she's not perfect, therefore she's not a Mary Sue.
I know. And if you want to go even a step further, you can actually make a Mary Sue based off that one flaw. And it could be like the silly Mary Sue or
Yeah.
the jerk Mary Sue or whatever. So there are permutations of that trope. And so long as it is poorly written character that is being on this power fantasy or whatever the hell it's supposed to be, we can still properly characterize this as a problem in the story as the character being a Mary Sue. So so yeah, the character is Mary Sue because most fan fiction writers is written by women and inserts female characters in stories. No,
I'm pretty sure that's not true.
you don't have.
I've seen a lot of fan fiction written by men who have the same problem of writing a perfect Mary Sue-ish character.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of I don't know where he got that. Um, Maybe at the time he's trying to just generalize, but
I think again in the '70s at the time the Mary's the Turkish Tale was written, that this might have actually been true. Uh, it might have been true because a lot of female fans of Star Trek wanted to pair themselves with Spock or Kirk. So it might have been true at the time. It is certainly not true now.
yeah. So using an outdated term to compare to current stories is not going to work. So Uh, so this, yeah, Max Landis. If you're not familiar with that guy, he was on Red Letter Media and he talked about movies. He's a movie producer himself, and he wrote this popularized blog post of how Mary Sue or Rey is the worst fucking Star Wars main character ever, and that is pretty accurate if you go and check out that
I
article.
think
It
I've heard
was
of him, but I like him already.
he's funny. He's a really funny guy. But but for some reason, people who like Eric showed this article to him, and he makes the case and tells us that nothing you say will change his opinion, which is a wonderful way. Okay, uh, well, the reason why nothing you say will change his opinion is because he has facts, and his opinion is based off facts. And maybe I haven't read the entire article, or I did maybe years ago and I forgot about it, but maybe his definition of Mary Sue is slightly different than mine or others, but the facts don't change. So this is where Eric screws up. He screws up on the facts and the interpretation of the facts and his definition of Mary Sue. So he goes on. It's not as though Landis is entirely off base. So he's not disagreeing with him, even though he's wrong.
Yeah, he says that he has some points, but he's wrong in the end. That the tag Mary Sue doesn't fit with Ray. That's basically what where they're disagreeing on.
Yeah. So we'll see what Eric's points are here. Rey is certainly very powerful, surprisingly so, even given she's had no training in the Force. Like to me already, that's a Mary Sue.
Yeah,
My definition is very simple, and I could actually explain it to you. Like I don't know what I think I've seen yours, but let me just try and open up Notepad here, and this is going to kind of weird. I say power or skill level is unexplained. That's like number one, if not the only one.
yeah, that's a
And
pretty good criteria to go off of. One of the things they usually have is overpowered powers that goes unexplained. It's just because the writer just gives them powers just to be awesome.
yeah, so the main problem with the Mary Sue is that it's unexplained. And there, if you actually look on TV tropes, there's this one called the God Mode Sue, which is
Yeah,
basically a god. So the god snaps his fingers and things change. So that's like the worst case scenario. With the least damaging is someone who's simply unlearned, unskilled, or whatever, but they still do something that is unexplained, and it's like, wow, you made that 3 point shot from like the other end of the court. How'd you do that? It's like, I don't know. Like that would be an example. But if it's only done once, it's not as damaging if it happens over the time. So we call a character Mary Sue, whether they're a god or they do these little things, if it's constantly unexplained throughout the story. Okay? This is my definition. This is all it takes. It's very simple. Now, I can go further. I can go, there's if they're likable or whatever. But what this comes down to, because we identify it as a problem, it all summarizes into this, which is wish fulfillment. And again, we can go to two extremes here because with Mary Sue's, there's the upper level where they can just do anything and they can distort reality and everything's crazy, or they're just simple guys and they get a lucky shot at a 3 point line, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's also a archetype or a variation of Mary Sue that's called the anti-Sue, which is someone going way in the direction of the opposite of a Mary Sue. So they're not good at anything. They're not good at anything. They don't have any special skills. They're terrible. Basically, they're kind of the opposite. Except I
Right.
think the one difference is that everyone still likes them for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, either everyone still likes them for some reason, or no one likes them, and they're just terrible at everything, which is still bad because that's way too far in the other direction. There's no reason to follow that person in that case. You have to have some. They have to have some skills. They have to have some reason why they have the camera following behind their head, while everyone else is just the secondary character.
That is
But
true.
your definition fits really well because it also fits into my definition, which is a Mary Sue is basically a character that has the universe revolve around them for no like explained reason.
Well, yeah, that we'll
Just,
get into the plot, and because Eric goes into that as
yeah,
well. We'll talk about that later. But in
yeah,
this
I see that.
case, with wish fulfillment specific to Ray,
Hmm.
uh, there's two extremes, and I don't think she's an author insert by any stretch, and I don't think she's very believable. She's somewhere in the middle, and to understand that, we say, well, why did they make this character this way? And the only thing I can figure out, not from the story, is they have an agenda, and
Yes,
this agenda is female, and
right. It's not an author insert. It's basically what I think I explained this in the video, but Ray is supposed to be an insert for their new target audience, which is little girls and 35-year-old women, like moms and stuff, like 35 to middle-aged women, moms, for to feel quote unquote empowerment. So it's basically a fantasy, power fantasy for those women.
exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with a power fantasy per se, like on its own. It's just that when you don't do it correctly, when you don't give actual problems and story elements and things to supplement it, then it becomes a Mary Sue-ish scenario.
Yes, and this is as simple as we can get. I mean, again, we could talk about how well liked they are by the rest of the world, how the whole
Right.
plot revolves around them, I guess, how morally good they are. I guess it could be morally bad as well,
Hmm.
but generally it's morally good. Generally, they're very attractive, and the weird thing is their personality is pretty generic, and there's actually a good reason for that. It's because they don't have character development. So if they don't have any flaws, they can't have an identifiable personality. So there's no change for them to make.
Oh
So
man,
they're
just wait for my next video to come out. I've been working on that one.
okay. So
I've
this
been,
is
I've been reading Marvel comics, so yeah, that's a big problem there too.
yeah. So this is just my basic understanding. Again, there's many flavors of a Sue. There's many
Oh yeah.
properties. So I'm not going to focus on that. But that was just my quick undertaking of that. So let's see how Eric keeps going. So, Rey is certainly powerful. She's well liked by those around her, can speak more than one language, is a decent fighter. Fight a battle with the Dark Jet. Is he a Dark Jedi? I don't know. She holds her ground against an opponent with better training. She also performs a Jedi mind trick on a stormtrooper, expertly flies a flaming falcon, even though she's never done this so before, and basically kicks ass and takes names throughout. That's a lot of talent. Yes, it is, but it doesn't make her a Mary Sue. Okay, not even close. Now, in order to have this way of thinking, if you say all of this doesn't matter, and not only does it not matter, it doesn't even have anything to do with it being a Mary Sue, then we gotta say, Eric, what the hell are you talking about? Because he's totally just neglecting the definition and saying it's not even relevant. It certainly makes her fit well into the Star Wars universe, a universe peopled by average people suddenly make extraordinary after being tossed in extraordinary situations. But Mary Sue is an exaggeration that ignores all details. You just gave us all these details, buddy.
It's he you know, Star Wars is about people becoming great. No, it's not. It's people. It's almost kind of like the opposite, especially after the prequel, because it's more about people who are like really force sensitive. At least the main movies are, because the main movies tend to follow Jedi, people who will become powerful Jedi. It's not about anyone can be a hero. It's about uh, people who are. It's kind of like there's destiny, there's prophecies. Destiny and prophecy take a lot of a lot of driving force behind the Star Wars, the main Star Wars movies. So it's more about you are destined to become a hero, or you have been chosen by the Force to become some sort of important figure in this universe, according to the main movies. Now, if you get into video games and everything, then you might you can shift into other forms of storytelling. But he's saying that Rey is not a Mary Sue because Star Wars is full of just normal people all of a sudden becoming awesome once they're put into uh, fantastic circumstances. Just because the people you can be thrown in a fantastic circumstance to become good doesn't mean that just because Ray goes through that same scenario doesn't mean she's not a Mary Sue. Normally, people have to earn it through pain and suffering. Ray just kind of does things
There we go. I
like
like
out
that
of
one. They
nowhere.
have to earn it.
Yeah, you have to earn it. She
Has
just kind of does
to.
things like what was it if you in the first movie in the first Luke's movie like the A New Hope, he goes through training. Like Ben actually does train him, and but like everything he earns, everything he gets, he kind of has to earn through like humiliation or pain or like he's kind of Luke can be kind of prideful, and then he gets hit with it right in the face. Like, yeah, I got this awesome idea. Let's dress up as stormtroopers. Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? That's it's pretty humiliating. Ray just kind of does things when she needs them to be done, and you know that's what my definition of Mary Sue kind of fits in is that when she needs something, she just pulls it out of nowhere like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Oh, I just got a super chat by Nicholas Black, and he's saying, "Oh, thank you, Nicholas. If I go back to many of your game plot breakdown videos, you talk about the role of side characters attack the protagonist. That's correct. When a
Yeah,
side character attacks a Mary Sue, she wins regardless of logic. Thank you. That's a very
yeah,
good observation.
that's pretty dead on because when you have a regular protagonist, you have who is in a group. The group tends to have group tension. Like, well, actually, he actually goes into this sort of later on in the article. So uh, when we get there, I'll point that out again.
Okay. Okay, so he's going to take this piece by piece, argument by argument, which, let's be honest, you need a bigger article to go through all these points because this is nothing, especially when you're trying to prove something. So Ray starts the movie as a scavenger who's with some piloting experience, who knows how to fight and can speak in multiple languages. She can also fix things like spaceships. That's a pretty hefty skill set already for a lone scavenger on Jakku with no formal education we know about. That's true, but Ray needed a pretty impressive set of skills to survive. Okay, so you can get by saying she's a survivalist.
Yeah, that does make sense because she's on her. But when we're introduced to her, she's on her own. She has obviously learned how to survive. So yeah, it would make sense that she knows some languages. She knows some survival skills.
Yep,
She knows how to deal with people, more or less,
yep.
on a
That's
at least a very basic level.
this is.
She understands she knows how to fight.
I'm with him so far. So he's making
Hmm.
sense. Fighting, scavenging, fixing things, taking things apart, negotiating with big jerks, all tricks of the trade. She's not pampered. Okay, this is where he's getting a bit off here. She's not a pampered farm boy like the
Oh
movie
yes, this
girl.
is one part of the article I really took umbrage with. Uh, do you know of any pampered farm boys?
I've never met anyone pampered on a farm.
Yeah, I mean, a farm boy. This is obviously something said by someone who's never worked on a farm before, or has never known someone who worked on a farm before. You aren't pampered on a farm.
It's back-breaking labor.
Yeah, you wake up before dawn and you start work until, the sun goes down.
And to be honest to the movie, Luke is constantly working. He's going to the market. He's trying to clean droids. Uh, he has a
Yeah,
broken down ship. Like he's everything's just busted up. So
yeah, the moisture, like the moisture farmers, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because they live in the middle of they live on a plant that's a desert. They're kind of important,
yeah. You need water
and
and milk and food and energy and all sorts of things. So
and I wouldn't imagine it'd be very easy to be a moisture farmer in the middle of a desert.
now,
So
yeah. To be fair though, Ray is by herself, so she does have it worse off. But
yeah, but
he's not
Luke is
pampered.
not pampered. He's just being disingenuous there.
Yeah, just eliminate this adjective, and I'd be very happy. I think I'd be okay with it.
And she's not a farm boy. Like so, Luke did have it a little better when he started off because he had a family, he had a shelter. You know, they had a business. He was part of a business, but he wasn't pampered by any means. So he's not
And,
this rich guy sitting on a bed of silk or whatever.
and most importantly, we understand where he came from to a degree. With Ray,
Yeah,
we have no explanation how she got there, what's how she learned these skills. We just know, okay, she survived, so she must have learned something.
and
That's
she's
it.
just awesome. She just has all these skills, like it's pre-generated. I think it's more the fault of that mystery box theory
Oh dear.
that it's just all right. Here's the cool looking box. The answers are inside, but I'm not going to tell you any of these answers.
Yeah, that's a JJ thing, and I've never latched onto that very well. People have used it explaining it to me, and I'm like, why would you think that way? Well, that's how JJ
Yeah.
does it. It's like,
Don't
but
open the box. Don't open the box.
but why? Why would you keep everything a mystery if you're never going to reveal it? So anyway,
I kind of get where he's coming from because mystery is what what drags you in. The mystery is what people keeps people's attention. What's the question? What's going to be the answer? But you have to answer it. You have to answer these questions. You can ask it, and then you can forego answering it for a while, but you have to answer it.
yeah. Okay, so with this point, I think he's okay. I think we understand that Ray is by herself. She's a survivalist. She has skills. She can speak different languages.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, that's fine. This is all good, I think. She flies the Millennium Falcon with no experience at all. That's a little far fetched. She does have some experience when she's talking to Finn and they're excited that she's alive. She says something like, "The hell was it? I'm trying to remember exactly what her words were." She's flying. She's flown some things, but never left. She's never left the planet.
Yeah, because we do see her like drive speeders or those little hover vehicles, but I would imagine there's a big difference between driving one of those and driving a full blown spaceship. Like
Yes,
it's
yes.
the same. Is driving a motorcycle the same as flying an aircraft? I don't really think so, right?
Exactly, and we talk about Luke. This is not as clear in episode four, but he actually has flown what's called a T
Hmm.
16 Skyhopper,
Yeah, yeah.
and
He's actually flown a ship.
yeah, and the controls they're said they're the same as an X-wing, so
Yeah,
he's
it's
actually
like
knows how to do it.
the I think the line is it's like shooting womp rats back home, something like that.
Yeah, and even Obi Wan knows he has skills because he says, "I understand," because they're talking about Darth Vader or Luke's dad, and Obi Wan says, "I understand you've become quite a pilot yourself," and it's like, "Oh," and he just shrugs and looks
Yeah.
away while he's fixing R2D2.
Yeah, and that's one thing he mentions in this article too about well, Luke and Anakin, they were good pilots too. So
Oh, this
therefore,
is this is perfect. I love this paragraph. Frankly, flying spaceships in Star Wars has never looked all that hard. In The Phantom Menace, the little pipsqueak Anakin is an ace pilot already, and he's just a dumb kid. Okay, first off, Anakin is the chosen one,
yeah,
and he
like
is a Mary Sue. So
yeah,
he's
at
not.
least in the first movie.
Yes, the first movie for sure. Like that, there's no argument with anyone
Yeah,
here that Anakin is very special. He's the chosen one. He's stronger than Yoda. Blah 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 blah, and he's amazing.
yeah. But here's the thing about this particular point that he's making, because he's trying to say that Anakin and Luke, they were good pilots when they first started out in their first movies. Therefore, it's okay for Rey to be good. Okay, look, they made a point in that first movie, the Phantom Menace, that Anakin was like a prodigy. He was a prodigy pilot. And they made a point of that. Even in the movies to follow, he was like really good at piloting, even for a Jedi. Like all the Jedi's like really good pilots or whatever. But Anakin was singularly pointed out as being specifically talented in piloting. And so
Even
it would make sense for his son Luke to inherit at least some of those skills.
and this was mentioned in episode four as well.
Yes, it was mentioned, so it is established. Ray, however, we have no idea where she comes from, so we have what uh, no establishing facts or anything like
Yeah.
that to why she all of a sudden can drive a ship that she's never driven before, or
Yes.
she's never even driven a ship before. She's driven speeders, but no ships. So at least Luke has driven a ship. She has no experience in ship flying at all.
Well, again, we were told by her she has, but she's never left the planet, but we don't know the extent of that. She could have just been
Yeah.
exaggerating. She could have been excited. There's not enough detail to back that up, and we need some explanation or showing of her doing that, and she has to be proving it to us, and that's the problem with her explanation, at least if there was to be one.
Yeah, we
So
need to see it. You know, there's the old adage, "Show don't tell."
yeah,
We need to see it.
exactly. And here is his explanation for Luke. He managed to destroy a Death Star and an X-wing despite having no training as a fighter pilot. Well, he does. We do know he does have training. We do know that he has experience with the
Hmm.
T-16. He does shoot womp rats or whatever. In deleted scenes, which I don't like arguing because they're deleted. They're not in the actual show. They were released in the '90s on the extended cuts or whatever. That Biggs and was it Biggs or Wedge? I think it was Wedge. Yeah,
Which,
Wedge is like saying, no, he's the best bush pilot I've ever seen.
yeah,
So there's people backing him up, saying, yeah, we know you're good at what you're doing, and I mean, there's evidence to showcase this. Whether it's unclear is the problem. So maybe Eric is just not aware of
yeah, because it's one thing if Luke said, "I'm the best pilot there's ever been," you know,
that.
like I'm not really going to believe that. But if someone else comes up and backs him up, then yeah, okay, I'll start to believe you now. So all we get in the Force Awakens is Rey saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a good pilot. I've driven ships before."
And
Well,
let's be clear here. He's talking about the best pilot, the best Jedi Force pilot ever, who's also the
yeah,
chosen one, and a Mary Sue at this point, and that kid's son.
yeah. So I mean, it is. He does have a point that Jedi tend to be really good pilots because I guess because of the Force. Because in the cartoons and everything that they released, Jedi tend to be pretty good pilots as a default. But Anakin in particular, he was like pointed specifically. He's like head and shoulders above everyone else because he's the chosen one.
Right. So
So that's pointed out.
yeah, so it seems to me either flying stuff in Star Wars is fairly easy, or
No,
young
it's
people
not.
with powerful Jedi abilities pick it up super fast, even though experiencing piloting vessels amounts to speeders on desert planets.
And
And
I mean, it's this stuff has happened in real life. You know, Mozart, he was playing for emperors when he was a kid. Because he was a prodigy. Anakin is a prodigy pilot, so it's established that he has higher level of competence when it comes to piloting than your average person, like way more. So it's believable, more or less.
okay, so let's keep going. This also leads to
All
a
right.
really big point I'm going to keep saying over and over again. If Rey qualifies as a Mary Sue, so do Anakin and Luke. All right, fine. Just because Luke needs some help doesn't mean he isn't a Mary Sue or Gary Stu.
What? You talking
So
about?
so first he's equating the three,
Yeah,
and he's partially correct because Anakin is essentially a Gary Stu in the first
yeah.
episode. But
Luke isn't though.
Luke, that's a big
Luke's
stretch.
not.
Yeah, I don't know where he's coming up with that, but this is his opinion. We don't know, so maybe he'll explain it. It's just that nobody cared about Anakin or Luke's capacity to very quickly pick up skills like piloting or using the Force, while Rey gets heaps of derision. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, because they were explained.
we know
Ray's
Anakin.
just given things.
Anakin has his innate skill with machines and flying, and he's super. We have a lore breaking moment where his midi chlorians are off the charts.
Yeah, but at
We
least they explain it.
it's a bad explanation, but it is something.
Yeah, we don't get anything with Ray. She just does things. It's just
Exactly.
she's just awesome, just by default.
Now this is really funny because first he says, if Ray is a Mary Sue, so is everyone else. Frankly, I don't think any of them are Mary Sues. So it's like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
what's your?
Let me just make it very clear now. I don't none of them are to me, but you are saying, yeah, uh-huh.
So either they are, or they all are, or they all aren't. And there's
That's
no,
not how it works, man. That's not
yeah, it's like every character and every main hero in every Star Wars is now either is or isn't a Mary Sue. And you're like, what? But I think all three are presented as wildly skilled and powerful beyond normal human abilities. Okay, Luke is not wildly skilled,
Yeah.
and
He's pretty much useless in the first movie. He just has some good ideas.
he's like the everyman. He is. We
Yeah.
all relate to him. He's kind of like I wouldn't say he's the underdog, but he's kind of in the boonies.
Yeah, he just some guy on the some backwater
Yeah,
world. I mean,
exactly. He's just
and most people can relate to being on the lower scale in life. You know, not everyone is born a millionaire. Most people are born, lower and low on a lower social level.
yeah, and you look at characters like Han Solo, who he's a scavenger or a trader or whatever. We say, okay, he's been doing flying and traveling all his career. He must be good at it. So we can
Yeah,
buy that. But you know, they're all powerful in the Force. Well, if they're all powerful in the Force, how come Anakin, when he becomes Darth Vader, doesn't do crazy shit like the Emperor can do and what Yoda can do? Why? Because
yeah.
he didn't
He
train.
is a step down.
He did
Yeah.
not do anything. He just stopped growing. So, but Ray is instantly better than him. So, oh, I
Yeah,
got
just
another
cause.
comment from Nicholas there. Supporting Luke is not a Mary Sue. Using my statement in A New Hope, Owen, Luke will always be a farmer. Obi-Wan, you can be more. Han, there is a place for pragmatism. Leia, women aren't damsels. Interesting. And they all play out differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's a message of the story of going. It's the hero's journey with Luke. We can clearly see it. Okay, so this point he's kind of wishy washy with. He's not sure if they are or they aren't. But apparently, flying is a skill that everyone just picks up because you're force sensitive, which I'm not so sure about that. Okay, so flying stuff is easy, and Ray would have picked up her fighting and language skills out of necessity. What about the Jedi mind trick? Okay, this should be good. How does
It should be
Ray
good.
know about the Jedi mind trick? He's pointing out
I,
that
this,
even if Ray
I,
has the Force, how does she know about
if I remember this part of the article correctly, this is probably the stupidest answer I've ever
it?
heard of anything.
Okay. This is actually pretty simple to answer. It's not like all the stories of Jedi just vanished. There's no doubt Ray had heard about Jedi mind tricks. Okay, there's a big difference between hearing about something and suddenly having full mastery of it.
Like I heard of this really awesome technique. I guess I can use it now. I've heard of this guy like winning a fight. I guess I'm a really awesome fighter now too. That doesn't work like that. We don't we don't learn things through like osmosis. We learn the information and then we have if it's something that we learn to do, we have to then practice it and
Essentially.
then we can do it.
Okay, I got another super chat from Lizard Viking saying Luke is a Mary Sue because he is a good pilot. Forgets the fact that piloting is the only thing he is good at in the first movie.
Yes, that's very true.
I guess you can say he's good at cleaning droids, doing his chores, but we don't know exactly what those chores are. So there's probably some sort of technological component.
Yep.
There's got to be more to it than just chores and menial labor. So maybe there is, but we have to really guess at that because he's coming from his dad, who was a mechanical piloting wonder kid. So
Yeah, so I mean the only thing that he's really good at in the movie is piloting. He has some good ideas that gets him through part way, but the main thing is the main skill he has for the main climax of the movie is piloting, and he gets that from his dad. Well, his dad plus he's probably done pilot. He shot womp rats back home, but it's something he inherited from his dad. He's basically has done nothing on his own specifically
yeah,
as of yet.
in regards to this section, Austin is saying, let's not forget that Luke was a legend to Rey. And if that's true, I mean, if the story of Jedi is true and Luke is a legend, then we're assuming that therefore she has learned something about Luke, and Luke can do all these things, and they're all myths to her. But okay,
Even then, she heard about him, she read about him, but she doesn't just get skills. It's not a video game. She can't just read a book and get like 10 experience points to learn force read or whatever.
yeah. So Kylo Ren again says at one point that she's just begun experimenting with her powers, and that the longer it takes to capture her, the more dangerous she'll become. Yeah, but so what? Where do these powers come from? How does she become good at them? Who teaches her so that she becomes dangerous?
And I think
It's
what some people have, or what the new fans of these new Star Wars movies seem to forget, is that I mean, you for example, you can know martial arts, like you can know how to punch and you can know how to kick and everything, but you don't know like specific moves unless they're taught to you. Like you can be really you can be really athletic, but you don't know how to do specific moves until someone teaches it to you. Like doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's
So you
that's
could be
just
force sensitive. Yeah, you can know how to use the force and be force sensitive, but you shouldn't know instinctively how to do things like read people's minds.
and that's just when you're training. That's not in real life when your blood is pumping and you're in a life and death situation.
Yeah,
So even if you were to learn, say you got a black belt in jujitsu or whatever, obviously those are more applied. But
yeah,
we're talking about getting shot at and flying a ship and repairing the ship on the fly. And it's like magic. Things just work. So when things become magic, you can't just point to the magical force, which has rules established by other movies. You go, no, this is the writer trying to push the story along. And things just
yeah.
work. Doors just open, etc. So how
She
is
just
she?
does
Yeah,
things.
how is she able to use them so quickly? I think the answer he thinks the answer to that lies is in Kylo Ren's conversation with Supreme Leader Snoke. We're told quite plainly that there's been an awakening in the Force. Hell, the movie is called that for a reason. So apparently, awakening in the Force means God mode instant. I
Yeah,
don't.
everyone gets supercharged or something. That's what that means. He thinks.
I. I don't know. I thought
He think. I
awakenings.
think at the beginning of this he says he thinks, but at the end of this he's at the end of the sentence he's certain. Like, come on, it says so right in the title. I think.
Usually, when it happens, you have to be trained from an early age. That's why children leave their families to go to the Jedi Temple, and it takes years and years to get competency. So,
Yeah.
the awakening would have happened when she was a little girl, and nothing happened for a decade, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Powers.
Yeah. So he has some weird explanations for this, but it's such interpretive silliness. It makes me laugh. Okay, so we're left with lots of questions at the end of the movie, but what seems abundantly clear is the fact that the Force is coming alive in a whole new way. There we go. It's doing something in a totally different way. We've never seen it before. It's never been told to us. This is brand new. You're witnessing a new Star Wars story, and this is all just it's all new. This is how
Yeah,
it's supposed to work.
that's how it's supposed to work. Someone should have said something. Like, the force is awakening in a whole new way. Therefore, your powers should be enhanced.
Yeah, if this is like, let's say we talk about Harry Potter, okay? So Harry Potter has to do with magic. Imagine there was a kid who didn't need a wand to cast spells. And you'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, that is against the lore because you need a wand. But if one of the head wizard guys goes, well, you know what? There's a legend of like the wild magician who comes every 100 years and he can do these things. It's like, oh, really? Like a chosen one,
Oh,
really? Like Anakin Skywalker who's just born with the yes. There we
at
go.
least it's explained. At least we have something to go off of, instead of just oh, it's new way and this is new way, and then they use that quote unquote forces acting in a new way to as plot insulation.
Yeah, and the next sentence is just as bad, if not stupider. Kylo Ren is undisciplined. It's like, wait a second. Kylo
What?
Ren is the son of Princess Leia, who has an uncle who's the strongest Jedi ever, and he trained with him for God knows how
He,
long,
he
and he's a
trained with
Sith,
Luke, and he trained with Snoke.
and he has this all these abilities. He's super disciplined. He's Sith, so he has all this extra power. He's given into his emotions, and
I
he
mean, he's angry, but he doesn't seem undisciplined to me during the movie.
right. He's sort of wanting to be Darth Vader, and he's always has this inferiority complex. So he's really nervous. He's
Yeah.
he can do all this crazy stuff. That says something about how awake. What is what is this has to do with how well he's trained? What is he talking about? It's no wonder Ray can perform magic tricks
Magic
because
trick.
because the Force is woke. The Force is
The force
awake.
is woke. The force is woke. Therefore, women just get better powers. I guess they're just handed better powers. That's how
Yeah,
woke it is.
he is projecting so hard.
I know this is such a twist of logic. He's just using any plot hole he can find. Oh, I'm sorry. We can't say that. We can't use the word term plot hole, right?
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's a sin.
we're gonna deride our entire argument by poking holes in his, I guess. So update. Okay, apparently he only.
This is what I remember. This is really really stupid.
Okay, let's go with this. Readers have also pointed out that Rey is only able to perform the Jedi mind trick and other Force stuff after Kylo Ren attempts and fails to read her mind. She gets into his head instead. All right, that's
Oh
interesting. How did she
man,
do that?
this is really stupid because his whole argument is saying that she's not a Mary Sue. So okay, um, when has this ever happened before? When has a Jedi tried to get into someone's mind and then that person just like, no, I'm gonna read your mind instead? When does that ever happen?
It's like you're fighting with a spear against a guy without a spear. You thrust the spear, it doesn't hit the guy. Magically he has his own spear and he spears you. It's like, where did that spear come from? We don't know.
Yeah, it is like this. She does this awesome thing. This person who's been trained in the Force is using a Force trick on her to read her mind, and then she is just so naturally awesome at everything that she goes, "No, you're not going to read my mind. I'm going to read your mind." And then his argument is that not only does she just say, "No, you're not going to read my mind. I'm going to read your mind," she actually takes some information from his mind, puts it into her own, so that she can now use Force powers.
Yeah, I remember the thing she says. You're scared to be. You'll never be as strong as Darth Vader. It's like, who the hell is Darth Vader? How does she know that? Um,
And,
like, how
yeah,
would she know anything else from his brain?
that's one thing. I mean, that's bad enough. Like it's she read his mind. Okay, okay, that's one thing. But on top of that, she stole information and is now able to use it. Like she stole skills from his skill set and is now able
Yeah,
to use it.
it's one thing to
How
read a mind. It's one
I,
thing to absorb through the mind.
she can how when was this ever possible? How and also the even the better question is how is this supposed to convince me that she's not a Mary Sue?
Yeah,
Because this is why I thought it was so stupid. Because this not only is really dumb, but it actually bolsters the argument that she is a Mary Sue. Because no one does this. She can do it because she's so special that the universe just like says, "All right, I'll let you do it. You
it's
want to do it? I'll let you do it."
it's kind of like having the ability to like either absorb a book through osmosis, or what's the idea of like psychometry, where you touch an object and you understand its past. In this
Oh yeah.
case, she's having that ability done to her with Kylo, and she says, "Oh, what's that? You could flash a magical beam of force power into my brain. I can now do that too, and I'm now better at you at it." It just doesn't make any sense, and Eric thinks this is
A
all.
debunk.
This is hardly a coincidence. She does it instead. It's just, dude, where are you getting this? Any understanding?
I guess it pays to have the game master as your boyfriend or something.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know who he's talking to now, but okay. But if Kylo Ren is so powerful, how did Rey beat him in a lightsaber duel? This one I really love. There are three major points that
Three
people
major points.
that
All right, let's do
overlook.
this.
Chewbacca's crossbow. This is a very good point. I totally understand what he's saying. First, Chewbacca shot Kylo Ren. Yes, he did. But you know what? That crossbow can blow the living crap out of an average stormtrooper. So for him to stop it is amazing, which means Kylo's really powerful. So
Yep.
instead of having a gigantic hole in his body, he's got a little hole. So yes, it's bad, but it also shows how powerful Kylo is. So if anyone's been injured in the torso, depending on what muscle group or what have you, you have a hard problem walking. You have a hard problem bending over, and your balance is going to be off. So we expect to see that, and that's what we see. I think Kylo would have been limping like crazy, but again, he's
Yeah.
so strong, he can still fight on, and he's bleeding and all that crap. That's true. So I'm 1 point to Eric. I'm fully with you there, buddy. Kylo was only trying to capture Rey, not kill her. Okay.
No, no,
When you
no.
remember him fighting, and there's Rey and Finn, He launches Rey up into the air, 5 stories, or if not more, up against a tree, and she comes crashing down. He did that with a flick. He didn't even. Just like
Yeah.
bing, and then he fights Finn, and then just Rey gets back up as if nothing happened. Why didn't he
She
do
has
that
way too many
again?
hit points.
Why didn't he do that again? Because he was trying to capture her. No,
Trying to capture.
he could have kept doing that till she knocked him out, but he didn't.
Like over and over and over again.
It's like bam, 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 bam. Is she still awake?
That's what he
Here,
should have done.
keep hitting her, bam, bam.
I mean, they did it all the time in Star Wars. Just slam you against one wall, slam you against another wall, ceiling on the ground. They do that all the time in Star Wars.
And he could have kept
But he
doing that,
didn't.
but because the story had to have Rey win, she's a Mary Sue, and it's very obvious.
Yeah, and I
Because
like how he goes in the next part here, where he brings in Darth Vader's fight with Luke in Empire Strikes Back,
oh dear, yeah.
and it just makes it worse. It just makes this argument worse.
Why were Vader and Luke both left standing? Because Luke, first off, Vader was about to destroy Luke after he chopped off his arm, and Luke is
Yeah,
like, "I don't believe you're my dad." And then Luke runs away. He literally jumps off the tower, and he hides. Rey is coming after Kylo. She's not running away. She's not scared. She's like attacking him head on, and she's
and
winning.
I'm not sure if this guy remembers that fight in Empire Strikes Back. Like, I'm not even sure. Well, I'm not even sure if he's actually seen the original trilogy at this point. But I'm not sure if you remember the Empire Strikes Back duel correctly. But that entire time, Darth Vader was just like barely moving. He was just, Luke was trying to attack him, and Darth Vader just fended him off every single time with complete ease. He never broke a sweat, and that's why Darth Vader became so menacing, and that's why it was such a great accomplishment when Luke Skywalker beat him in the end, because we could see how much he's progressed.
And,
That's what should have happened here
and,
with Rey versus
right.
Kylo.
And what was beautiful about that scene throughout the story, first off, Vader was toying with Luke. He could totally take him at any time, but he
Oh
doesn't.
yeah, it
But
was
doesn't
so
want
easy.
to. And when he finally says to give in to your dark side, that's when Luke freaks out because he's going to turn Leia. He's like, "I'm going to turn your sister," and then he starts wildly swinging the saber, and that's when he beats Darth Vader. Then Luke says, "No, you're my dad. I'm not going to do this." Because we see his resolve to be good and to see the good in his father, and that's what
Yeah.
was beautiful about that scene. Now I got some super chats to read. Let me see. Again, Nicholas
Right.
back. You're throwing money at me, man. What are you doing? Now look at Ray in Force Awakens. Finn, I will save you. Lo, nope. Han, I will give you a new life. Kylo, I will overpower you. Again, nope. Maz, you have the Force. Only one attacks and fails miserably. Yeah, well. What can we say? Maz Kanata. Everything she says is yeah, that's when you think about Ray and her motivation. All she really wants to do is go back to Jakku to wait for her parents, and then Maz is like, "You shouldn't do that," and she's like, "Oh,
It's not a very exciting motivation. I mean, Luke Skywalker's motivation was that he basically had Disney prison syndrome. Like, I want something get better and more grand. So that's something we can all relate with, and it's exciting because it prepares us to launch him into a big adventure. Like, he's willing to step out into adventure. He's just a little timid at first, but Ray is just, I want to stay here because I'm waiting for my parents. It's not really exciting. It's not giving us
well,
motivation that she's
that
going to
that
step
is
out of the
that
big
is
world.
one of the only motivations or plots we ever get out of Ray,
Yeah,
which has nothing to do with the events of the story. We're gonna get to that point later, but we'll get to it. So I got another
yeah.
super chat, Mohammed. Why Kylo's eyes didn't turn yellow after killing Han? That's I don't know. Is that a thing in Star Wars where you kill your dad, you get eviler in the eyeballs?
I don't think so. Not specifically your dad. I mean, just I know the dark side is fueled by negative emotions,
Right.
but I don't really know how that would help. I mean, that'd be more cathartic if he hated his dad, right? But I'm not sure
Yeah.
if he hates his dad. Actually, I have no idea.
Yeah, Kylo is confused. Yeah, that's true. If Kylo's confused, the audience is just as lost. So
I know there's something in the games where like you're supposed to kill something you love. I'm not really sure what that's exactly supposed to do. I'm pretty sure that's usually a test of loyalty, that your master
yeah,
makes you kill something you love to prove that you are loyal to him. But I'm
It-
not sure if he gives you more powers.
yeah. So the second point is comparing Kylo to Darth Vader is just not. It's not the same. You could you could say that Darth Vader wanted to turn Luke and then capture him, but he was ready to kill him. He was ready. I will just don't let me destroy you.
And basically, I think Darth Vader at the end, it was okay. I want you to join me. If the answer is no, I'm going to kill you. That's probably why he was toying with Luke at first.
Well, that's an actual conversation that he had with the Emperor.
Yeah,
I think we can be turned, and we know at that point that they're talking about his son. But Vader's like, yeah, well, if he doesn't turn, I'll crush him. It's like, yep, got you. So the third point, the lightsaber itself played up. This is the dumbest point.
oh man, is this the lightsaber where the lightsaber has a mind of its own point?
Oh, this is okay. Finally, the lightsaber itself calls to Rain Maz Kanata's establishment. Okay, when does it do that?
Oh, this is really stupid. This is really, really stupid.
If you're force sensitive, you can sense things. Objects that are inanimate don't do that. Now, there are artifacts in the Star Wars universe called crons or
Yeah, holocrons.
holocrons, yeah, and
Yeah.
they actually have the essence of Sith lords or whatever in them, and they can talk. They're like whispers,
Yeah.
like ghosts.
Yeah, they're basically like records. Like they
Yeah,
have like ancient forbidden knowledge in there.
yeah, but they don't actually call out to people. If you're in the vicinity, you could pick up on that, and they start talking to you. When she touches it for the first time, she's overcome by visions. We hear the voice of Obi-Wan. We see hooded Luke. Blah blah blah. Okay. When he tries to use the Force to grab it, Rey is able to instead, not because she's more skilled. Okay, so he's agreeing that she's not more skilled, but because the light. Okay, so now he's rationalizing this whole thing, where she's not more powerful than Kylo. The lightsaber flies off of its own power to Rey. Does that make any sense?
This is so stupid. This has never happened before. Like, this is why. And this is another point he brings up to try to debunk her tag as a Mary Sue, but only enhances the fact that she's a Mary Sue. This is when has a lightsaber ever had a mind of its own? Like, and then he's arguing that because she's able to defeat Kylo because of this lightsaber. So what the lightsaber gives her like what +10 in lightsaber combat? What's going on?
Well,
This doesn't make any sense.
let's actually go with what he believes. If he believes there is a object that favors her more than another person, does that make her more or less a Mary Sue?
She's such a Mary Sue. Even inanimate objects love her.
Yes, exactly. So it's either she is a Mary Sue because she's stronger than Kylo, or she is a Mary Sue because the inanimate object which has some magical power wants her more than Kylo.
Like, it's an object that has magical powers that has never been established that could even happen in this universe. Loves her more than Kylo.
And he's saying that because Rey couldn't have done this alone, the inanimate object helped along the way. It's like, okay.
So, thank you for helping me prove that she's a Mary Sue. What's this guy's argument again?
He got lost up in believing because inanimate objects can help you, therefore you need help.
If he's trying to make this point into a point that tracks against her being a Mary Sue, this is some like very
It's like
high skill, high tier mental gymnastics
never
going on.
fails. Um, it's kind of like with the unlearned or unskilled. So it's like always succeeds, and then the other one would be like never succeeds. And she's
And
like
never fails.
she's like 90% here because like she'll mess up the first time, like when she tries to get the guard to free her. She'll screw up the first time, but then she gets it the second time.
Yeah, so she could fail a little bit, but she eventually wins. Even when she fails, she wins. That's kind of a
Yeah, and
running.
it's not, and even Eric doesn't know if it's about the force or the object. She just wins.
Yeah, because they don't tell us. She just does it.
Yeah, we assume it's because of the force, but we don't know if
We
it's
have
from
to assume
her.
it.
Yeah, we don't know if it's from her or from the object. So it's like, all right, either way, the second try, she wins. So I don't know, Eric. This is pretty flimsy. So, okay, he keeps going. There's one more tiny detail that moviegoers won't necessarily pick up on. In the movie script, we're told that killing Han actually hurts Kylo. Kylo Ren is somehow weakened by this wicked act.
Tiny detail.
I don't. like maybe he is weakened, but again, you have to explain how. The
Uh,
script reads adding
we
it in.
know okay, in the movie. I know in the movie that he's visibly hurt by. I mean, he's not happy that he killed his dad, but we don't know that it's weakened him. In fact, isn't one of the things about the dark side is that negative emotions make you stronger?
Yeah, exactly. And you give in to them and you express them and you prove to yourself when you commit violence that you're stronger than who you're attacking.
Yeah, it's all about power. It's all
Yeah,
about anger,
yeah.
fear, all that stuff.
So killing your dad, whom you wanted to kill, and you want to free yourself of your past and get over yourself, and so you can commit to even further acts of violence and power. It's like, oh, you're now proving to yourself. So yeah, initially it sort of rattles him, but I think he's a bit more rattled by having this woman swing a sword at him than the fact that he just killed his dad a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
Just maybe. So
because I'm pretty sure Kylo has not really been in any lightsaber combat before, like with another lightsaber combat user, like a person with a lightsaber. Because there's not very many uh, highly skilled people anymore. Like maybe when he killed everyone else,
right,
maybe that's where he got some. But he's not an expert at dueling
the
lightsabers.
fact that he's
But he,
part of a group and the leader of the Knights of Ren, it kind of is like, okay, he's trained.
yeah, he's trained.
He's fought other guys. There's other guys that are strong as him or with lightsabers. It's like,
So
okay,
so yeah, it would make sense that it makes sense that he's way more powerful than Ray in that aspect. But in being relatively inexperienced with in life or death duels with both parties have a lightsaber, it would make sense that he'd be rattled by someone coming after him with a lightsaber.
yeah. So even if he had like a peg leg or one arm or one eye or whatever, I think he'd be a bit more skilled with lightsaber dueling than Ray would be.
Yeah, I don't care if he had a hole in his stomach due to a crossbow and like is on his last legs. He should have sort of won. Like he should have sort of had been able to control that battle from start to finish.
And if they really wanted to do a plot solution, like where the Earth opens up, which it happens anyway,
Yeah,
he could have been at the opportunity to about to like win and about to kill her or turn her or whatever, and then the Earth opens up and they get separated.
yeah.
And
I mean that happens, and
that
then
happens
it would have
anyway.
made more sense if that happens. If it happened that way, make more a little bit more sense.
Right. So not quite a Mary Sue here either, given that she was fighting a wounded opponent, again, not relevant, who was only fighting to subdue her, not necessarily. He wasn't doing a very good job. While Luke and Anakin's lightsaber came. Oh my god, yeah, dude, this is too. I can't even believe that. It's so ridiculous. Okay, so let's keep going. But everyone loves her. She never makes mistakes. That's two things. So
All right,
everyone
here we
likes
go.
her, and she's perfect. Which perfect is too strong a condition. So you're just grasping at straws. She's likable. Everyone liked Luke. No,
No, that
he
is completely untrue.
he nearly got killed in Mos Eisley until Obi
Pretty sure
Wan
no
saved
one
him.
liked Luke
Well, he had
except for
some
Ben.
friends. Yeah, Ben liked him. Obviously,
Like
his
in the movie, like in most of the movie, no one really liked Luke, Ben, and then at the end of the movie, maybe that his friend who went off and joined the rebellion.
right. So
But everyone else hated him, or at least didn't like him that much. Prince Leia, Han Solo.
yeah, there's plenty of examples of lots of people disliking Luke. Luke never getting further. Mos Eisley, I don't think Han Solo even liked Luke very much. Um,
Nope.
Plenty of
He thought he was
examples.
just some whiny kid.
But with Ray,
Everyone just instantly likes her. She's instantly awesome and
Finn
lovable by
likes
everyone.
Ray, BB-8 likes Ray, Han likes Ray, Chewie likes Ray, Leia likes Ray.
And one more thing that actually happens to Ray that's pretty indicative of Mary Sue is that everyone who likes her is a good guy, but everyone who dislikes her, the only people who dislike Ray in the movie are all villains.
Well, even I would say even Kylo is attracted to her.
Well,
He
yeah, he
wants
can be
to,
attracted.
yeah, he wants to get her onto his side, even though he's fighting her. But
He might not like her, but
in some capacity, he wants to.
he still could be attracted to
Right,
her.
right. I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but
Yeah.
it's she is rather likable. Like that's one of the points of being a Mary Sue is that she does no wrong. She's excellent at everything. She has a generic personality. She's going to solve your problems. I mean, that's kind of the point almost. So if someone doesn't like her, there's got to be a really good reason why that is. And I don't know. There's all kinds of ways to like a character, at least from the audience perspective, but within the story, it seems
Yeah.
pretty obvious that she's this idealized character.
And the thing about the Mary Sue is that people can dislike a Mary Sue in a story. They're just always painted as in the wrong, no
Yeah,
matter what
exactly.
side they're on.
The best example I remember in your video was Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
He is not, no one likes him really. He's kind of this geek guy who just knows everything about computers and technology, and he's solving the day. He's saving the day. He's solving problems. Everyone's like, what the
Pretty
hell?
easy. And then like Jean-Luc Picard doesn't like him, and he's not painted as being in the right for not liking him. He's painted as being in the wrong, like he's not being open enough. He's just being grumpy. So even the main character, the starship captain, is can be painted as in the wrong for not liking a Mary Sue.
Right. So I could add to the list, but I think a list is just fine.
Yeah.
So everyone liked Luke. Also, no, that's false. Everyone liked Han. No.
No, no one liked Han except for Chewie, maybe.
Even if Leia played hard to get. Okay, at first
Yeah.
they didn't
Okay.
like him.
Ben Kenobi just barely trusted him because he's practical on that end. Luke disliked him. He called his spaceship junk. Leia just really hated Han to begin with.
Yeah.
You're a scoundrel. She's just like, you're a scoundrel. That's it. So they didn't like Han. Han didn't like Luke, and Luke didn't like Han. They have intergroup tensions with each other. No
Yeah.
one liked each other that much.
Star Wars has likable characters that pretty much define the original trilogy, but that's like saying any story can have likable characters. The prequels failed largely because the character was so unlikable. This is a non sequitur. You're not making a point here. That's irrelevant. Ray and Finn get off to a bad start, actually, but that turns around extremely quickly after
Even
this.
he says that. Even he says extremely quickly.
They're like two little kids bouncing up and down, praising one another. Yeah, because Ray is so
Okay, yeah.
amazing.
Here's the thing about the modern Mary Sue, especially when in the agenda-driven ones. For some odd reason, you find this in other mediums too, is that their Mary Sue star agenda character, it needs constant emotional validation. Like
That's interesting.
they need to always need to be telling them, someone needs to be telling them, oh, you done good, you're awesome, you're great, you're beautiful, you're smart, whatever. There needs to be a constant emotional validation, like, oh, you did awesome, you did great.
That is an interesting observation. I've never paid attention to how they react to her all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Ray and Finn get off to a bad start. Okay, they're like two kids. It's charming and an enormously upbeat moment in an age when movies tend towards cynicism. What was his point?
I have
Everyone loves her. She never makes mistakes. And
I think he's kind
now
of trying to hide it.
they all like
He's
each
trying to
other. He's like, what? Aren't you contradicting?
like, it's good. Basically his point seems to be it's all right because it's upbeat.
I guess.
It, everyone likes her. Oh yeah, not yeah, everyone likes her, but she and Finn kind of had a rough start, and they really didn't. They just kind of like, hey, I just met you,
Yeah, here we have the
and then
same.
they quickly go into hey calling territory fairly quickly.
Yeah, and the same arguments made with Han. It's like at first they don't like each other, but then boom, they it's only the attack of the pirates that changes his mind. It's in the scene that Ray makes one of her biggest mistakes, accidentally releasing the
No,
Rathtars Solo is transporting. That, but the thing is, even though
no,
that's a
no.
mistake, or if they want to call
Look,
that a mistake,
they started liking each other relatively quickly, but they don't meet, have a quick argument, and then instantly love each other. They meet, dislike each other all the way until the Death Star, and then after they go through a literal life and death situation with each other and help each other out and saw how they reacted and how they got each other's backs. Yeah, they started to like each other a little bit. That makes that makes sense. That's how humans work.
and he offers her a job essentially. But this whole paragraph is really interesting because look what he's saying, and it's in this scene. Ray makes one of her biggest mistakes, which releases all these those really weird looking tentacle creatures,
Yeah.
and it works out well in the end. Is not some stroke of genius on her part either. It just happens to work out
Because she's a Mary Sue.
because she's a Mary Sue.
This basically this thing needs to happen, and then she needs to win in the end.
She does.
There's no consequences. There's no like
She
there's long lasting consequences for the rest of the story.
she has
She just
done
wins.
random shit that was a mistake, and it saves the day anyway. So like, dude, like it doesn't matter if it's a stroke of genius or not. She did it. It happened. It worked.
Yeah.
She's unconsciously a Mary Sue. Like what the hell you?
She's she's so naturally good that even her mistakes are victories.
Exactly. It's ridiculous.
I mean, what was it in the original movie? Luke had the idea. I think it was Luke who had the idea. They dress up as stormtroopers, right? So they go. It works fine until they get to a checkpoint where they actually need to show their credentials, and then like, oh, we're in trouble now. So that was his mistake, and then they get into a firefight, and then it leads. It just gets worse for them from there. Ray is just all right. I made a mistake. Oh, works out great in the end. It didn't work out great in the end for Luke's mistake, but
No,
it worked out great in the end for Ray's mistake.
I don't get this. Like, and even when she makes a mistake, it still works out. It's just like I don't, dude. Like
And it works out just fine in the end.
it's like your points aren't valid. Like you're invalidating, and you're saying it right here. I don't like, dude. Anyway, the struggle is real. Let's see what this means. Landis and others point out that a strong female character needs to be well drawn and face some adversity. Well, any good character needs to be well written and
Yeah.
face. And storytelling is essentially uh, explaining what happens when people face conflict, and that is a form of growth when they have faults and they
Hmm.
learn from those scenes of conflict and they become something new. So that's all good writing. But struggle isn't merely an action sequence. Okay. A strong character, either male or female, needs more than snow monsters and trash compactors. Sure, they need internal struggle. Oh, here we go. And Ray faces more internal struggle when she's presented with the. Okay, where are you getting this? Can anyone tell me how much internal struggle Ray is facing? And it's
I have
more
no
than
idea.
Luke.
More than Luke. Luke has internal struggles since like the second we see him almost. Because he's conflicted about staying loyal to his family and working on that farm and leaving to go join his friend in the rebellion or pilot school or whatever his friend went. So that's he immediately has struggles, emotional struggles. Ray, I have no idea what she's being presented with. She wants to stay here. She wants to stay
She
where she
can.
is.
Okay, this is what happened. I don't know the exact movie line by line, but I'm trying to remember. Okay, Ray can easily beat Kylo. She can
Yeah.
easily defeat TIE fighters that are chasing her.
Yep.
Even when the gun of the Falcon is jammed, she can pilot so the angle is perfect for Finn to fire. She can outfly any other ship that comes near her, outgun them even with her broken gun.
Hmm.
I mean, she can escape a prison by
By
learning force
herself.
powers. She can open walls in this prison and hide in them and walk through them. She can
Hmm.
magically find her friends on a planet-sized Death Star in a hallway. These aren't struggles. These are coincidences.
And none of that is explained. She can just do them.
This is crazy.
Anything she couldn't do before but can do now, she doesn't really earn. She's just handed the ability to do them.
When you have a struggle, it's because you have a fault and you have a hurdle, and your fault is causing you not to get past that hurdle, or there's some other
Yeah.
physical block, and you have to grow as a character to get past that, or vice versa. Maybe the hurdle is causing you to strengthen yourself, or maybe you have to strengthen yourself to get over the hurdle first. Whichever, either or doesn't work. With Ray, there is no growth. She's
She has no tragic
always
flaw to overcome.
she's always been a good fighter. She's always been a good pilot. For some reason, she's an amazing engineer because she's a scavenger. She's she's feminine. She's attractive. She has a British accent for some reason.
Sometimes.
She has like that really nice personality. She's good to droids. She doesn't turn them in for the food. She just tries to keep them for whatever reason. She's always independent. She's competent at everything. She's very self assured of herself. It's like what? Where is she gonna? How is she gonna better herself?
I mean, they could have easily fixed it by having her still do the right thing in the end, but like, you know, visibly struggle with having if she was going to trade in the droids for food, it could have been like, okay, maybe I should, maybe I will, but then at the end she says, and maybe she even was going to turn him in, but then the droid does something and she sympathizes at the last minute and decides not to. That would have been a little bit of a struggle, but she doesn't even do
Right.
that. She just instantly jumps to the right decision, or quote unquote moral decision.
This is he's literally making this up.
He is. I think he even admits that he's making this up. He's like, I'm pretty sure it's this way.
And here we're talking about Luke. It's only when he learns of his father that Luke is faced with any real doubt. Are you
What?
are you serious?
See, I'm telling you, I'm not really sure if he's actually seen the original trilogy.
I don't. I shouldn't have to list all the things that Luke had to struggle with: learning the Force, learning to fly,
Leaving his home.
the death of his family.
There's so many things in just the first movie that he struggles with, that he
It's
doubts.
and Ray. She runs. She wants to go back to Jack. When did she run?
She runs. She
She
walks
runs
fast. I'm not sure if she
toward the
runs.
ship when they're being attacked on Jakku to get into the Millennium Falcon. Just like Finn wants to go as far away as possible and hide, neither character's instinct is to go toe to toe. Okay, but in this regard, she's reacting to everything. This is one of the elements of a good or a bad protagonist is that they're an active or passive protagonist. And it's not to say that a good protagonist is always active, but it's to say that if they're constantly reacting to things, then it's the story isn't about them.
Yeah.
They're like again, what does Ray want? She wants to go back to Jakku. I'll give him that. But all of a sudden, because she talked to Maz Kanata, she doesn't go back to Jakku anymore. So she may have all these struggles. Like there's all kinds of struggles she goes through as people try to shoot her and all that crap. But they're all reactive. They don't force her in the direction she wants to go because we don't know where she wants to go.
Yeah, she's kind of like a pinball. She's bouncing from one
Yeah,
thing to another. Not really. She doesn't really have autonomy over her actions. She's just jumping from one point to the next. I think a protagonist needs to have like a motivation, like where the
yeah, and this is
do
what really
X, and
seals
then
it.
yeah, and then the protagonist is supposed to have a motivation and then go after the motivation, and then it becomes the struggles come from trying to overcome those obstacles
Right.
to get to their
The
goal.
motivation becomes the plot, and that's what he says. Like this is really funny because but they're not really given a choice in the matter when talking about Finn and Ray. It's like exactly they're
Yeah,
not. They don't have a plot. Ray wants to run away to Jakku, and then she doesn't want to. Finn wants to run away with Ray because he wants to be safe, and then they don't. Why? Because they never give him the opportunity. That's not good storytelling. That's just we have a plot, we'll forget about it.
don't really have a choice in the matter. That shouldn't be really an option for them because if they're a real protagonist, they always have a choice. There's that always classic scenario where they have two choices, but they make a third one
Yeah.
because they push through. They have to have a choice. They have to have strength of will to overcome no win scenarios, like the Captain Kirk mindset.
Right. I don't. I think Eric is not familiar with the movie, or he's trying to project his own idea of what actually happened in the movie. It's hard to say, but let's keep going here. Landis says that Luke sucks and needs saving constantly,
Oh, oh yeah, that's kind of true.
but Luke also destroys the
Yeah.
Death Star as a result of getting help from Han and Obi Wan as well.
Oh yeah, it's called a character arc. He's grown by the end.
And he says almost single handedly. Well, sorry, it either
Almost
is
single-handed.
single handedly or it isn't. Which one is it? And it's
Yeah,
not single handedly. Again,
yeah. He
Han
didn't do
saves.
that single handedly.
Yeah,
Okay.
Han saves him. He's with a fighter squadron. He's Red Five or whatever the number he is. And
If Luke,
people,
yeah, if Luke had done this single handedly, he would be dead.
yeah,
He would have died if there was no other guys to take bullets for him.
exactly. So there's five other fighters, and then he gets saved by Han, and then he gets saved by Obi Wan to stop the Death Star at least.
Yeah,
So
he gets
he
lots
got,
of help.
yeah, he gets this wrong. That's a bad. Again, I'm not saying that Eric Kane's reasoning is wrong in this case. I'm saying his facts are wrong. So everything from that would be automatically wrong. So
Yeah, because he's coming from a false premise.
exactly, he uses the Force to fire the perfect shot, mustering his strength at just the right moment, almost exactly like Ray does. Okay, this is way off. First off, he didn't need to use the Force because then they wouldn't have a plan. Like the plan was to use your targeting computer, and the first time that I think was it Biggs or Wedge, they fired the shot, they missed
Yeah,
for whatever reason. So that's
and
not.
it's
Gee, I guess we need
trusting
the
his
Force now.
instincts.
It's just I need to take a more accurate shot, and he uses the Force to do that. Fine, and he's comparing this to Rey, where she uses the Force, and I'm like, what Force power does she use to fight off Kylo? And the only thing I can think of is when she pulls the lightsaber. But he already
Hmm.
established that it wasn't a result of her being strong. It was a result of the lightsaber going to her.
And the lightsaber beefed her up.
So what is he talking about here?
Yeah,
Is
because he
he?
made the point that the lightsaber was the one that gave
Yeah.
her
So he's contradicting
like
himself
max
basically.
stats.
Yeah. Oh well. I mean, again, his premise is wrong, so everything else he says is wrong. We're just trying to describe
Yeah.
how wrong he is, and we have no idea. All right. So Ray actually faces plenty of struggle, just a different kind. True. She's been
Different kind.
stranded on Jakku alone her entire life. Fine. She only helps Finn because he lies to her. Um, I'm not so sure about that, but it's not relevant. She doesn't. That just means she's very good. She's nice. She's forgiving. She's a Mary Sue. She doesn't mind Finn lying to her.
I'm sorry. One second. I just need to step out. 1 sec.
No problem. Take your time. I'll just keep going with my other wonderful chatters in the chat. She doesn't want the lightsaber when it's handed to her and instead runs off, placing herself and her friends in danger. Hmm. That's also true to a point. She does run off when she feels the lightsaber coming. She doesn't like it. She gets scared. They go to rescue her, and just because she escapes her cell doesn't mean she would have escaped the Starkiller base alone. Interestingly, she can escape the the ship in The Last Jedi alone, and they actually skip the entire part of that movie. She escapes an entirely semi-destroyed ship from the throne room. She escapes in Snoke's ship, somehow finds her way back onto the Millennium Falcon, and then is back in the fight on was not a whatever that not Hoth planet was. So she has no problem escaping things on her own. Maybe not necessarily in Starkiller Base. She definitely escaped her cell on Starkiller Base, and she probably would have escaped just fine from the planet or the Starkiller planet if she had the opportunity. Nor does Rey actually do anything to destroy the base or stop the bad guys. Well, why would she? That's not her plot. Her plot is to escape her cell and to escape the base, not necessarily blow it up. I don't think she was ever part of that plot. She simply escapes the Dark Jedi. She escapes stormtroopers. She escapes all the hallways of stormtroopers. I don't know how she does it, but she does. So I guess she was like a thief or
All right, I'm back.
so he is really reaching. I don't know if you've read this yet, but I explain how ridiculous all this sounds. First, making her forgive Finn or not caring makes her a Mary Sue because she's always nice. She doesn't want the lightsaber when it's handed to her and runs off. That's true. She gets scared. Placing herself and friends in danger. I don't know if that's true. They go to rescue her, and just because she escapes her cell doesn't mean she would have escaped the Starkiller base. Yet she does that in the next movie, no problem. Um, Nor does Rey actually do anything to destroy the base. Again, she doesn't want to. That's not her story. That's not her plot.
So she only helps Finn because he lies to her.
Yeah, I don't know about
I
that.
think he does lie to her, and she does trust him and help him. But then I think that what doesn't the truth come out, and then she still fights with him.
She's a nice person.
Yeah, she's just naturally nice all the way around. Like
Exactly.
there's no like she doesn't get angry and have her emotions overcome her, and then she hates him for a while. It's just, oh, you lied to me. Okay, I guess I can forgive you because Mary Sue is perfect in every way. So she's perfectly forgiving.
She simply escapes a dark Jedi. Well, no, he does. She does more than that. She escapes an entire cell. She mind controls a stormtrooper. She sneaks around the base, and no one finds her. She hides in walls. It's crazy. Han and Chewie
Yeah,
do the explosive work, and Poe Dameron seals the deal. Again, this has nothing to do with her. Rey was not involved in blowing up the base, nor did she want to be.
and the men are doing all the work. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
If Finn hadn't been there to get in Kylo Ren's way, he would have easily captured Rey at the start of their final fight. Not really, because when he threw her against the tree, she was out for like 30 seconds,
Yeah,
and that's when he was fighting Finn. And then after that, Rey just pops up. So the wind wasn't knocked out of her. She didn't break any bones. She was fine. Time and time again, Rey needs help, and help is given. Again, she doesn't have to be the best at everything, but she always wins the second time through. It's
A Mary
bizarre.
Sue character can get help. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's not out of the realm of possibility.
that's what
But
I mean by
it's what
by
they do with that help. It's just it's their lack of struggle after that help is given.
yeah. It's like when we talk about the power level. It's like, well, she's closer to the god mode, but I'd say like maybe 50%, maybe 60. Like she screws up once, but then immediately wins. And the time when she fires a gun, like she fires a pistol the first time, kills, was it two or three trained stormtroopers with rifles. Now, I don't know if anything about guns, but rifles are a hell of a lot more accurate than pistols.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, there are instances where she succeeds the first time and several times, and there are times when she fails the first time and succeeds the second time. But she always succeeds. That's kind of the point.
And if she does make a mistake, it either doesn't come back to bite her or it actually helps her in the end.
Yeah,
So
like we saw with the previous example.
yeah.
Genius.
So, I mean, come on, you have to have some. She has to go wrong some way. She has to do something wrong. While
Yeah.
she's a Mary Sue.
And
No
the,
one is perfect, and it's even worse in her first movie because this is the time where she's supposed to be her most green, like her most novice stage.
right.
So she's doing all this awesome stuff already. They're not really leaving much room for her to grow.
And to grow, you need flaws. You need to have inexperience. You have to make mistakes, or else there's nowhere to
Yeah,
go.
she has no tragic flaw to deal with.
Landis and others apparently want Ray to face all the conflicts Luke experiences over the course of the entire trilogy in just one film.
No, that's not
No,
true at all.
we still want a believable story though in one film. We want to
Where's he
believe.
getting this from?
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't read what Landis said, but
I don't think anyone's saying that argument.
I highly doubt he said that. I'm pretty sure he
Yeah.
didn't.
We only spend 3 or 4 days with our characters. We don't know much about any. We know plenty enough to know that she is beyond special, and it doesn't make sense that she can do all these things. We know she's brave and good, but we also know she's impatient. So what? What does impatient and little hot-headed have anything to do with that? You
And
can't
when does
be
it bite her? When does it bite her? When does it come back to bite her? Her being impatient. Like when does it really mess things up for her and her crew?
like if it was a actual character flaw, if it was a thing where she can't talk to Finn and she has no relationships because she's so egotistical or she thinks
Yeah.
she's beyond everyone, then okay, that's a definite flaw and she has to deal with that, and over the course of this journey she learns friendship and getting along and fighting
Yeah,
together.
I'm not sure if you've seen Game of Thrones, but there's that the Battle of the Bastards. There's that one point where they had like this awesome plan, and then they kill Jon Snow's brother, and then he just forgets the plan and just does a full on charge. Even knowing that a full on charge is basically a death sentence for them. Like if her hard headedness had done something like that, where like the rebellion had this big old plan where they're going to take down the Starkiller base, and then everything is going perfect, and then Ray's hot headedness destroys that plan and puts everyone in danger. Now that would be a considerable tragic flaw. That'd be a good mistake for to happen due to their hot headedness. But
Right.
nothing like that ever happens.
Yeah, and in that same way, she would still be perfectly good in her own way, but her actions caused harm for others.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't undermine her being any less perfect, but she's now realizing the consequences of her actions on the rest of the world. That would be
Yeah.
a good. That would, you would still maintain your crazy femme super munched, and then you'd say, oh, maybe I have to grow in the social way with all these other people who are not as strong as I am or whatever. So that would work. You could do both at the same time. Here we go.
Yeah.
We're fixing the problems as we read them.
That's the most terrible thing about these things that I'm coming to learn is that little tweaks can make it to these things can make it way better and still bring their agenda across. They're just
Exactly.
bad at it.
Okay, you talked about the novelization. We're not going to bother with the third
Yeah.
party stories because I think the movie should stand alone. In A New Hope, Luke's greatest failure is not saving Obi-Wan. Maybe,
His greatest failure is not saving Obi-Wan.
maybe. It's a it is certainly a big thing to him, but
Yeah,
that was Obi-Wan's choice though. That was
it's
like
bad. Yeah, but that's supposed to happen.
right.
What's Obi-Wan's sacrifice? It's not really
Yeah, exactly.
Luke's failure. Like if that would a failure, then Obi-Wan would be like captured or something, and then Luke tried to save him, and then due to Luke's failure, he died. But it was Obi-Wan's conscious
Yeah,
decision to sacrifice
if
himself.
if Obi-Wan was like projecting his mind saying, "Save me, Luke," and he failed, it's
Yeah,
like, "Oh crap."
that would be a failure.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Rey couldn't save Han Solo either. It's like no one could have. That
Yeah, I'm
was
not even sure if he's dead.
well, in
But
regards in
yeah,
regards to that scene, right? It had nothing to
yeah.
do with Rey. They just sort of saw it as they walked in.
It just kind of happened.
Exactly. So
Like there was no tension build up where Ray is running to go save Han Solo because Han Solo's in trouble. There was no someone saying Han Solo's doing battle over here. We got to go save him. It was just they walk in, Han Solo gets killed. It's not really a failure either.
and here we go. And unlike Rey, Luke hasn't lived a life of struggle and hardship. I'm like, well, not as bad,
Life of struggle and hardship.
but
Yeah, yeah, he has.
well, he says he's a farm boy who never
He's a
had to take
farm.
care of himself.
What is he talking about?
Yeah.
I think he's mixing up farm boy with like millionaire heir. What farm boy that who he's talked to is like pampered and taken care of and has to do no work.
Yeah.
He's never taken
Ray's
care of himself.
already comparatively seasoned. She's a survivalist and a mechanic of some sort.
Yeah, I'll give her that. She's a survivalist, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
She's easily leveled up a few times. Yeah, I will say she knows how to fight. She can fight. She can talk. She can repair things and take things apart. Yep, I'll give him that. Give her that. And when the movie
So
begins, Luke is a
she's
level zero nobody. Okay, this doesn't make sense now because he said before that Anakin, Luke, and Ray are all Mary Sue's.
yeah. If they're all Mary Sue, she's a Mary Sue, then they're all Mary Sue. That's what he said.
Yeah, so how does Luke, who's a nobody, be a Mary Sue? It doesn't like he's not.
But that's even better for Luke's case. He's a level zero nobody. That's what he's supposed to be in this particular formula. They're doing a hero's journey formula. He's supposed to be relatively level zero nobody. You're not supposed to start off as a this badass. That's supposed to come later.
That she doesn't start as foolish or naive as Luke also doesn't make her a Mary Sue. That's true.
She start off as foolish as naive. Again, is he trying to convince me that she is a Mary Sue? That she isn't.
I know. Yeah, and you can have foolish Mary Sues. You can have silly, uh, goofy, overpowered characters. This happens a lot in anime where you have like
Oh yeah,
characters
yeah,
in the background who are just like the headmister or the best friend, and they're just like there to be supportive. But when things get rough, they just like blow the crap out of everyone and save everyone's lives.
yeah.
So
But I mean, the Star Wars, if they're supposed to be emulating the original trilogy, it's supposed to be Rey's story is also supposed to be kind of a hero's journey. She's supposed to start off foolish and naive. That's the essence of it. You're supposed to start off green, foolish, naive, optimistic, idealistic, and then you
yeah,
grow
I
and
think
mature.
I think if they had the actual uh, conflict between her current life, which is I live on this planet, I'm waiting for my parents, I'm really good at what I do, and then we have this call to action, and she's like, should I really do that? Should I really get into this thing with Finn and Poe and everyone else? And we see her change her personality from being okay, I'm no longer going to be a scavenger, I'm going to be a rebel, and
Yeah.
it never really happens. She just sort of gets caught up in things, and Maz tells her maybe you should stop doing that, and it's like okay. And he says, "Yeah, it's all a bit rushed. No kidding. I would have because there's no development and things just happen. I would have,
Yeah, things just happen. There's
yeah,
no this happens and this happens and this happens. It's just this happens. Well, it's not. It's not. This happens, which leads to this, which leads to this. It's this happens, and then this happens, and this happens, and we're going to put together and make a movie.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, when we're talking about and we talked about active and passive things, the only two things I can think of that Ray actively does is she saves BB-8 from those whatever guys because she sees them and she goes and saves them, and then she chooses not to sell BB-8.
Yeah,
That's all I can think of. There might be one or two others, but everything else has nothing to do with the main plot of.
and she doesn't. She doesn't solve the main problem. She doesn't destroy the Starkiller base. She doesn't do really anything, and that's basically what this the protagonist is supposed to do, because the protagonist, the reason why we're following the protagonist of the we're following the protagonist is because without them involved in the story, the bad guys win. That's essentially what their role is supposed to be on the normal circumstances. Like with Luke in his first movie, the rebels would have been destroyed if he hadn't been the one in the trench firing that last missile.
Right. And by sheer fluke, that his buddy Han came out of nowhere for whatever reason, for whatever change of heart.
Yeah, his change of heart.
It's like boom! I'm gonna dodge this entire mechanical monstrosity of like thousands and thousands of turbo lasers and hit off Darth Vader and just okay guy, get out of here. Let's blow this
Come
joint.
in and win for you. All right, kid, just blow this thing and go home.
Yeah, it's like where
It,
that is a Deus Ex, but
Yeah, but it kind of worked because it matched with his character. He was one thing and now he's
right,
another. Friendship.
exactly.
I- in Force Awakens, I would say Finn or Poe were more in the active protagonist role because they're the ones that went in and did things.
Well, Poe seems like the you take the skill of a pilot from Luke,
Yeah,
and that's it. Like that's him, and he's really good at it, and that's all he does.
yeah, pretty much. He helped destroy the Starkiller base. At least he helped destroy the Starkiller base. I don't know what Ray did.
No, she didn't really help him. So I would have loved more character development. I would have loved any character development
Yeah, I would like any character development. Thank you.
and more time devoted to that arc. Which arc? Like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. My guess, however, is that the arc, her arc. My guess is that her arc is supposed to be different. How can you guess?
Different.
Did you watch the movie?
Loved more.
If you watch both movies, you should know what the arcs are, and then you could
He is
say,
right. Her arc is different. Luke's arc is an arc. Hers is a straight line.
this is where I begin to question his even where he's getting his information because you would never start a sentence with, "My guess, the evidence is different." It's like, what are you talking about?
His whole defense seems to be based on conjecture and guessing. That not evidence from the movie, but just what he wants to be
It's
true.
his yeah. He's projecting. This is why when I look at people who disagree with you, there's three major categories. The first one is they're ignorant of what you're talking about, or they don't have the same knowledge as you do. So it's like you didn't see this. Maybe you're blind. Maybe you're deaf. Maybe you missed it. Whatever. The second one is you didn't understand what you saw. So we saw the same things, but it didn't make sense to you for whatever reason. The third
You just don't get it.
you
You just
just
don't
don't
get
get
it.
it. Yeah, that's I
Yeah.
mean that happens. It happens to me a lot. In the third case, you see it, what I see, you understand what I understand, but you're too biased to believe what is there is actually there for whatever reason. I think that's what's happening here. I think Eric is like projecting what he thinks this all means as opposed to just saying, well, even though this is what happened. Because you would never start a sentence with, my guess, however, is that her arc, because he's talking about the first film and he's saying that the arc is going to take place over two more films. And this is a
No, no,
common,
no.
very common argument. Even
It's a dumb argument.
it's a dumb argument whenever you hear it. But
Yeah.
when I was
Sorry.
when I was on the bulletin boards for Mass Effect for BioWare,
Hmm.
and I would be making arguments to people saying, well, nothing really happened in this story. The heroes get to the end of the story and they're pretty much the same spot they were at the beginning, and they say, well, don't worry, this is not over. The rest of the story is coming in the third part, and you're like, well,
Oh, okay.
why didn't they make an actual story and just expand upon it in the third part? Like, what's the point? Why would you give me half a story? So this kind of argument is saying because it's a trilogy, don't worry, they'll fix all the mistakes.
That's really dumb. That's not a valid argument. Look, because if and to those people who argue that, you take a New Hope, take the Empire Strikes Back, and take Return of the Jedi. Yeah, his arc takes place over all three movies, but each individual movie has its own mini arc in there. So A New Hope takes Luke from a farm boy to a more competent fighter. Like he's grown from just regular guy to hero, but he's not done yet. Empire Strikes Back, he starts off at a rebel base, and he's growing into himself a little bit more, but Over the course of Empire Strikes Back, he really gets in tune with the Force. He grows from a guy who just learned how to kind of use this new thing called the Force to someone who's mastered it more and who's growing more into a hero. And then Return of the Jedi, we see him more fully bloomed into his hero status.
Exactly. You want, if you're doing a trilogy, you don't treat it as if beginning, middle, ending is chapter one or book one, book two, book three. You
Yeah,
make a story in book one, which has its own beginning, middle, and ending, and in character arcs and what have you. So this argument is in place when there's something missing in the story, and the only thing they have to fall back on is, well, the story isn't done, so therefore you can't evaluate it on the overarching plot line as opposed to the actual plot line. So it's sad, but it's a very common argument in these sorts of discussions. So
yeah, especially when it's in parts that your audience has to pay for. So
yeah, no,
you
it's
can't just not give him. You can't just leave it alone and give him nothing for two movies so that everything can be wrapped up in the third one. That doesn't work like that.
yeah. I mean, Ray is he keeps going. Ray is a tough survivor. Okay, the first film, we don't know what she'll be in the next two films. Gee, let me guess. But obviously, her story is different from Luke's.
Yeah, it is.
That's for sure. They're
That's yeah,
totally.
it is very different.
It's yeah. What we don't have is a full three movies to judge. Okay, you know what? I can judge you right. I can tell you right now.
Yeah,
Unless
just from the first
JJ
movie.
learns how to write, guess what's going to happen to Ray? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. She'll become even more powerful or nothing.
And here's another thing about that particular point is that we don't have three movies to judge from. That's also very stupid. Look, you're not entitled to anything, okay? As a writer, you're not entitled to for me coming back to watch your two stupid movies that are following up this first one. You get one movie, you get one chance. If I'm not interested by the end of the first movie, I'm probably not going to come back. So even though the studio has greenlit two other movies, I'm not. You're not entitled to my business
That
if the
is
first one isn't good.
that is I would take that a step further and I would say if you're not hooking me in every chapter,
Yeah,
I'm like because I don't want to read through Tolkien unless I like Tolkien. I'm not going to read through Stephen King unless there's a good like I'm really invested in these characters or these stories. And that's a lot of my time. So
yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time with bad storytelling. I can write my own story, which is three times as short and probably better. So
And it's even more to the point that you only give the writer or the creator a little like a page or something. Even now, especially nowadays, because we have so much content that we can invest our time in. We have content overload these days.
yeah, and because we have so much content, and because there's so many of these stories, space opera genres, or dramas or action, we can say, hey, you know what? We've consumed so much. We know from experience why something doesn't work. And
Yeah.
we may not be as articulate or as well versed as others, as critics or what have you, but we can
Hmm.
explain. So when we see a critic who, like Eric, who gets it wrong, we're not faulting him for believing in gender roles or feminism, whatever. You believe whatever you like, but when you start
Yeah.
criticizing something which isn't true, then we'll say, look, your evidence is wrong. And that's really all that criticism is. When you speak to other people online or what have you, they have their own arguments. And all you do is you talk to them and say, well, why do you think that? And if they can't properly express their opinion with facts, then you know they're projecting, they're biased, they misread something wrong, or they don't understand what they actually saw. So, yeah, he says this at the near the end. He's like, uh, Kylo is too emotional, the girl is too tough. Whatever will we do with these slightly not traditional gender roles? It's like, dude,
What?
we we already knew you were, that mentality, but to actually throw the leftist attitude at us,
I don't care that Kylo Ren is emotional. He's on the dark side. Of course, he's going to be emotional.
yeah, pretty much, it's kind of given.
But I mean, Ray. It would have been better if they gave Ray some kind of personality, some kind of identifiable personality. But all she has is, all right. What's she going to do here? The right thing. Why? Because she does the right thing.
Again,
She doesn't have anything.
again, he keeps going with Rey isn't fully drawn, Finn isn't fully drawn, neither was Luke or Obi-Wan or Han Solo or Leia. It's like, okay,
No, that is complete. That's complete bull.
yeah, he's just listing
Fully drawn.
names.
Everyone was everyone was fully drawn in their first movie. We know who Han was. We know who Leia was. We know who Ben. We know who Ben was. We know who Darth Vader was. We can even get a sense of who the Emperor was due to how the Empire runs things. Because a malicious Emperor would run stormtroopers like they run when we first see them. A benevolent Emperor would not do that. They would not have storm an ambassador's ship and murder everyone and then take the princess hostage. That's not what a good emperor would do.
This is a very odd argument he's making. People judge The Force Awakens as though it has to be all three movies at once. But imagine you'd only seen A New Hope. Imagine how many problems that movie actually has. Okay, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie,
Yeah, it's not a perfect movie.
but for the most part, the characters hold up. We know what's going on, and we can believe in the mythology and the power of the Force and technology and what have you. I don't know what are. I mean, that's
It's pretty plot driven. Like there's one thing leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing, which leads to the
yeah.
next
Like we
thing, right? So
know
yeah,
we know why Luke is going on his journey. The death of his family.
yeah,
Obi Wan needs his help. The princess
from
needs his
minute
help.
one,
We have all
like
these
from minute one,
reasons.
we get that.
Yeah, I don't
Right, we
know.
see Leia's ship being attacked by the Empire. She launches R2D2 with information. The information lands in Luke's hands. The information calls in Ben. Ben Kenobi convinces Luke Skywalker to go with him. The stormtroopers force Luke out of his home. They go to the cantina. They meet Han Solo. It just goes from there.
Yeah,
Next point. Next point.
and
Next
to
point.
and to be clear on that, those are all active choices that Luke makes. They're not reactive
Yeah,
choices. So you're right. He goes after R2D2, and R2D2 takes off. He leaves with Ben to from Tatooine. He decides to learn the Force with Ben. I'm trying to remember all the plot points. Oh yeah, there's like the time when Han wants to take off, and he's like, "No, we got to go
yeah,
save Princess Leia." Then that's when he decides to join the rebellion. Then he volunteers for the Death Star attack, and then he listens to Obi Wan when he gets the vision of like use the Force, Luke, and he turns off his targeting computer. Like those are all active choices that he
yeah. He may
makes.
not be a leader. He may not be the perfect guy, but he makes choices and he acts upon them.
Yeah, and even if he was this like there's a really funny joke if Ray if Luke acted like Ray, like everything would just work out for him. There'd be no problems. The scene in Mos Eisley, he'd just like tear the guy's arm off. You know,
With his bare hands or something.
yeah,
Like, give me that.
come here, 'cause you're not gonna kill me. Come on, and he puts it back on. That'd be the best.
He puts it back on. And when they sit down with Han Solo, Han Solo would be so enamored with Luke that he'd just take his first deal.
Yeah, Han would volunteer to go with him.
Yeah, he'd volunteer.
I'll save the princess with you, Luke. Haha.
I'd be honored to drive you around, no charge. And that when they went dressed up as stormtroopers, you're like, "Hey, can you at least let us in? I know you need identification, but you can just let
Yeah,
us in." I go, all right, nah, we do that. We'll do that for you.
we're okay. Just come
And
on
then like when
in.
they even if they did get into a fight, Luke would just like learn Force lightning and kill everybody.
How'd you do that? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just so awesome. I saw a video actually where someone recut the Force Awakens where she wasn't a Mary Sue, and like it's really funny because things is like, oh, I fixed the Millennium Falcon. How'd you do that? Well, all I did was, and then it just explodes. Like I bypassed the.
No. This I love this paragraph. This what he's doing here is just unique. The Force Awakens isn't a perfect movie. The action is great, but can overshadow the slower moments. The characters are great, but they aren't terribly fleshed out yet. This is
Uh-huh.
merely Act One of this story. Yes, it's no accident that Rey finds Luke on a planet called Octo, according to the film's script. Octo sounds an awful lot like Act Two, after all. I he's doing a pun on the name of a planet to
It's okay
imply
because it's fun.
to imply it's it's going to lead to the second part. Like this is really projecting hard, man. You are just woo.
This is so stupid.
What a dumb point to make. It
This is
sounds like
really
X two.
stupid. The characters are great, huh?
Oh my
But they
god.
aren't. They're great, but they're not terribly fleshed out yet. Okay.
Thanks, buddy. That makes perfect sense. It's just bravo on that
They're
one.
great, but they're not really. They're awesome. They're just not written well.
There's more to come. They're gonna get better, but they're already great.
No, they're supposed to already be fleshed out and well drawn. Okay.
Yeah.
They're supposed to. We're supposed to get to know, be able to identify what these people are. I don't know who any of these people are in The Force Awakens.
No,
The protagonist is not really the protagonist. The Finn, I'm not really sure what he is. He's just there. He's just kind of there to be another person on the team.
the, oh,
Poe Dameron is gone for most of the movie.
yeah. Poe. Oh, there's a lot of problems with Poe. He just takes off. Thanks, Poe. Anyway, these last two paragraphs are just gold. These are so good. Writing off Rey, the first female Jedi. She's not a Jedi.
She's not the first female Jedi. Oh, in any of these films. Okay.
Yeah, as a Mary Sue is pretty lame. It turns out. Why is it lame?
It's good on paper.
It's good on paper as long as you ignore major sections of plot from the movie. Dude, we did not ignore any. I think you skipped a lot because you didn't like them. You can check off all the boxes, which when you do that, that means you have a Mary Sue, so long as you leave out huge clues to the contrary. Even if we left out the huge clues, if we check off all the boxes, and this is just my minor list.
Just check off all the Mary Sue boxes. You can do that. You
But
know,
that doesn't make her a Mary
with some
Sue.
facts.
Even if
You know, you can check off all the boxes of her being a Mary Sue. You know, if you use facts and evidence. But if you don't use facts and evidence, then she's not. So there.
if Ray, if Ray had actually been written as a Mary Sue, she would have done all the above, which we have established because we checked off all the boxes.
Yep.
But beaten Kylo Ren without any of his handicaps in play. Okay, she would have done all the above, but again, I think this it comes back to the problem with the definition of Mary Sue for Eric is that he assumes the God version of Mary Sue.
Yeah, that's she's supposed to be perfect in every way.
Yeah, he wants the God mode, which again, Mary Sue can be unlearned or unskilled, and for one scene in the movie or whatever the story, she does something amazing. The problem is in this movie, she keeps doing it. And it doesn't have to be like she's moving planets with her mind. She's just solving every conflict that comes her way. Not instantly, but sometimes instantly. And even her mistakes end up saving the day. So
Yeah.
his mind is not even paying attention to what the trope is. She would have rescued Poe Dameron from his burning X-wing and flown it expertly to fire the final shot. What? Why? That was not her story. She was trying to escape the Death Star. Why would she suddenly start doing other things?
That would have been an active choice. That would have been something she'd be doing.
Yeah.
And she'd have make her put in the center of the story. She can't do that.
I would have liked to seen that. That
She's a reactionary character. That's
Yeah.
pretty much all she is.
she would have known she was a Jedi all along without even knowing what a Jedi is or how to train, and never would have been captured. Lots of Jedi have been captured in all the movies.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know where. And again, Luke was captured. So is Luke still a Mary Sue? Again, I don't know. Instead of leading the effort to rescue Finn and so on, again, he's really just shot in the dark here, not making much sense.
It's just conjecture.
Yeah, and this
I
is the
feel
best.
like
This
I
is
guess
this is the best paragraph. I swear. I mean, we had some really good paragraphs. This one's the best. To me, Rey is far more complex, mysterious, and interesting than her critics allow.
no. What
Now, I don't know what he means by complex,
complex?
but To me, on the surface, it looks like Ray just solves every problem, is good at everything, is nice to everyone, is amazing at any technical problem, is feminine, has a generic personality.
Complex.
I don't see how
Complex
any
how?
of yeah, I don't see how any of that is complex. It seems pretty surface level.
She is two-dimensional. She's shallow. She's superficial. There's no complexity in that.
Yeah, she's crazy mysterious.
Pretty
We
much what you see is what you get.
but we have no idea how she does any of this stuff.
It just happens.
And interesting. Now, when you talk about storytelling, interesting is the most generic thing you can say about a story or its elements. It makes no sense. When I find something interesting, I could find it compelling, I could find it boring, I could find it. I mean, it's so generic. You can mean the opposite of what you're saying. Um, like it's so interesting, it's boring. It's so interesting, I have to stop reading it. You know, you can't articulate why you like something or why you dislike something. It interests me. You know, you could find out it's really stupid, and that's why it's interesting. Then her
Yeah,
critics flow.
there's a whole industry based around watching people do stupid things.
Like when you have a bottle of wine and you taste it, you're like, this is a complex, interesting flavor. You're not saying anything.
That's what wine critics wording, where they don't know actually know what they're talking about. They just
Yeah, if
want
you
to
say
sound smart.
I sip a glass of Pinot Noir and I go, it is complex, mysterious, and interesting. I am literally saying bullshit. Okay.
Now, I like how he saves these three words for the very last paragraph. Like, these are three words that are very ambiguous. That's why you're supposed to use them at the beginning. She's complex. Well, why is she complex? Because this, and this. She's mysterious. Why she's mysterious? Because this and this. If you don't explain why she's complex, mysterious, and interesting, then you're not really saying anything.
Yeah, and that's the same. When you take a term that's complex or nebulous like Mary Sue, you have to start defining it, and that's what I just sort of did off the top of my head. Maybe
Yeah.
he should have done that a bit better. But he defined it based off a reading of the Trekkie's Tale, which is just a farce in the first place. So
Like the prototypical Mary Sue, which
yeah,
is perfect in every way.
you have to get a current definition and use examples of how that definition works or doesn't work. So to have your definition make any sense or to have any meaning, or else
Like,
you're,
you
it
have to show
doesn't.
your work.
You have to show your work and you have to prove that your definition is relevant to the conversation. Because you just start saying like Ray is complex because she's not a Mary Sue, and she's mysterious because we don't know how she does anything, and she's interesting because I really like her. You've just described a Mary Sue. We have
And then I think there's a big difference between being mysterious and not knowing where everything comes from. Like, you can explain all the stuff around her and still have her be mysterious.
yeah, because she's good at everything and she's so generic and she's feminine and everyone likes her. Yeah, I'm going to be interested. How the hell is she so powerful? Let me watch her wallop the shit out of a Sith. Like that's amazing. How did she do that? How did she fly like that? I have no. Like, I want to know. Are they going to tell
Who
us?
knows?
Like it's a mystery. I really want to know. But it's bad writing because there's no answer.
Oh my gosh! And this last couple of sentences here are just painful to
Yeah,
read.
maybe episode 8 will prove me wrong. It did, but I wouldn't count on it. Star Wars was always about somewhat unrealistic characters in a totally unrealistic space opera.
No, no, no,
Um,
no, no! You can't use that as excuse. No, no, no! It's
that's
so stupid.
part of what makes it great. That's like saying, "Wow, this mystery story is so mysterious," and I don't know who killed the last guy when the story ended. That's what makes it
she's
great.
she's not a Mary Sue because Star Wars is full of unrealistic characters and unrealistic incident totally set in unrealistic say space opera.
This part of what makes it so great, Ray fits into this universe perfectly, at least so far.
That's really dumb. That's
This horrible, unexplained, mysterious, unrealistic world needs horribly written, unrealistic characters that are mysterious.
Yeah.
Um,
There have been plenty of female characters written in the Star Wars universe that were written well, and you can have them be an unrealistic. And unrealistic is not a very good term here because realism is relative. So they're not unrealistic in their own universe.
Like when you have,
Mary Sue is unrealistic in its own universe.
yeah, no, when you have a character who can survive the vacuum of space for 15 minutes and not have her skin boil or get radiation sick. I mean, if you're still alive, and fly and somehow control atmospheric pressure without killing everyone in the spaceship you're flying back to. Yeah, that's pretty unrealistic.
That's pretty OP. That's pretty OP.
I mean, if that's what he wanted. He got it. I mean, that's going to keep happening in the next movie. It's going to be like more ridiculous shit that doesn't make any sense.
Unrealistic space opera. How does this guy get work?
How does Erik Kain get work?
Yeah, how does this guy get work? Unrealistic characters in an unrealistic space opera. Therefore, Rey is a good character because she's unrealistic. That's basically his argument at that last sentence right there, or that particular sentence.
I don't know. It's hard to follow him, but we know his mentality. We know where he's coming from. We know what the movie's trying to do. This is pretty obvious, and he believes in it. So he's going to defend any negative. It's like, oh, it's a strong female character. All the guys are going to complain. That it's like, no.
The best thing he did was bolster the argument that she is a Mary Sue.
Yeah, and again, if Ray was Ray with an A and was a guy, it would be the same argument. We'd be making the same observations. She'd be a bland character that could just do no wrong and solves every problem. And we'd be like, why and how is this possible? And that's it. But because it's a female and Ray and Kylo is angry and women are strong, it's just okay. I guess so. But yeah, that was the first part of Erik Kain's explanation why Ray was not a Mary Sue. He does a second part, and we're going to cover that next week because, well, we're interested in these things and it's just entertaining to talk about. I think it's fun. I think this is great, and hopefully you guys will learn a bit more about writing and patterns in writing, at least the Mary Sue trope for whatever it's worth to you. If you ever,
how does the second one fare to this one? Is it even worse?
It's I would say I wouldn't say it's as bad, but I'd say it's a different flavor of bad because he doubles down, right?
So it's like a chocolate instead of vanilla.
It's a different flavor of ice cream.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait.
So yeah, thanks guys for taking the time with us. Check out Literature Devil's YouTube channel. He's done some very Mary Sue videos. I have a link in the description. Check it out. And if there are any other articles or videos that you'd like us to take a look at, and I know there's all kinds of crazy Mary Sue jokes on YouTube that people just poke fun at the movies. Try to find ones that have a good argument, people who actually like the movie and can explain why. That would be great. We really appreciate that. And we'll see you next week talking about Mary Sue's again.
Good night, everybody.